They say the worst part of betrayal is that it never comes from your enemies. It comes from the person you're sharing a bed with, the person who knows your deepest insecurities, the one you swore to protect, and the one who promised, standing in front of your family and friends, to be yours forever. My name is Mark. I'm 34 years old, an architect living in the suburbs of Chicago. Up until a year ago, if you asked me to describe my life, I would have used one word: perfect. I was married to Chloe. We met in college. She was vibrant, intelligent, and had this laugh that could make you forget a 60-hour work week. We had been married for 6 years, together for 9. We bought a beautiful house, had a golden retriever named Buster, and were actively talking about trying for our first child. I gave her everything. I supported her through her master's degree, handled 80% of the household expenses so she could take a lower-paying job she actually loved at a boutique marketing firm. And I never, not once, doubted her loyalty. But looking back, the red flags were there. They always are, aren't they? You just choose to view them through rose-colored glasses. The glasses didn't shatter all at once. The cracks started small.
It started about 8 months before the end. Chloe got a promotion. With it came longer hours, sudden mandatory networking dinners, and a new circle of friends. One name kept popping up: Greg. Greg was the senior account manager. According to Chloe, Greg was hilarious. Greg was so helpful. Greg was her work husband. Whenever I expressed a mild discomfort, the gaslighting was textbook. "Mark, don't be so insecure. He's married," she would say, rolling her eyes affectionately. "You know you're the only man for me." Then came the phone guarding. For 9 years, we knew each other's passcodes. We'd use whoever's phone was closest to order Uber Eats or check the weather. Suddenly, her phone was glued to her hand. She started taking it into the bathroom while she showered. The screen was always placed face down on the counter. If a notification chimed, she would physically jump. When I asked her about the new passcode, she played the victim perfectly. She said her firm had updated their security policies and required complex passwords for client confidentiality. I, like a trusting, naive idiot, believed her. I wanted to believe her. But your gut always knows. My stomach was in a constant state of mild nausea. I wasn't sleeping. I was becoming paranoid, and I hated myself for it. I thought I was losing my mind. Until the iPad incident.
It was a Tuesday night. Chloe was at one of her late client dinners. I was home, sitting on the couch, working on some blueprints. My laptop died, so I reached into the side table and pulled out our old iPad. It was an older generation model we barely used, mostly just for reading recipes in the kitchen. I plugged it in and turned it on. Because it had been dead for weeks, it took a minute to boot up. When it connected to the Wi-Fi, it started vibrating wildly. Notifications were pouring in. I looked at the lock screen. It was iMessage. Chloe had changed the password on her phone, but she forgot to unsync her Apple ID from this old forgotten iPad. I didn't want to open it. My hand was physically shaking. But I pressed the home button, and there it was. A thread with a contact named Sarah. Nails. Except the messages weren't about manicures, and they weren't from a woman. I opened the thread. I scrolled up, and in the span of 30 seconds, my entire reality My future and my past 9 years burned to the ground. It was Greg. The messages were graphic, disgustingly explicit. They detailed what they had done in his car the day before. They talked about the hotel they booked for the upcoming marketing conference in Dallas. But the message that broke me, the one that made me run to the bathroom and vomit my dinner into the toilet, was from Chloe. Greg had texted, "What if Mark finds out?" Chloe replied, "He won't. He's too clueless and obsessed with his work. Besides, even if he did, he doesn't have the spine to leave me. I hold all the cards." I sat on the cold bathroom floor for 2 hours. I cried until I couldn't breathe. I felt humiliated, emasculated, and profoundly alone. The woman I loved was a stranger, and I was just a convenient ATM in a warm body to keep her comfortable while she lived a double life. But as I sat there, staring at the bathroom tiles, the paralyzing grief started to curdle. It solidified. It turned into something else entirely. It turned into absolute, ice-cold rage. She thought I didn't have a spine. She thought she held all the cards. I decided right then and there that I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to systematically dismantle her life.
When Chloe got home at 11 p.m., smelling faintly of a cologne I didn't recognize, I was in bed pretending to be asleep. The next morning, I kissed her forehead, told her I loved her, and went to work. It was the hardest acting job of my life. I didn't confront her. Confrontation is for emotional amateurs. If I blew up, she would delete the evidence, play the victim, spin a narrative to our friends, and try to take half of my assets in a messy divorce. Instead, I went to a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I found the most ruthless, shark-like divorce attorney in Chicago. I slid the printed transcripts of the iPad messages across his mahogany desk. He looked at them, looked at me, and said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want her to leave this marriage with exactly what she brought into it, nothing, and I want everyone to know who she really is." For the next 2 months, I played the loving, clueless husband. Behind the scenes, I was a ghost. Step 1. Finances. We had a joint savings account meant for our future child. Over the course of 6 weeks, I slowly funneled my portion of the money, which was 80% of it, into an offshore trust my lawyer helped me set up, legally. Step 2. The house. I bought the house before we were married. Her name wasn't on the deed, but in my state, marital funds used for the mortgage could give her equity. My lawyer found a loophole. I quietly sold the house to my brother through a trust, and we technically became renters. Step 3. Evidence. I hired a private investigator. For 3 weeks, he tailed her and Greg. He got 4K video of them making out in parking garages, entering cheap motels on Wednesday afternoons, and holding hands at restaurants an hour out of town. But the PI found out something else, something beautiful. Greg wasn't just married. His wife, Emily, was 6 months pregnant with their first child. Chloe didn't just betray me, she was actively helping a man destroy a pregnant woman's life. That was the final nail in her coffin. It was time to introduce myself to Emily.
I reached out to Emily through a burner Facebook account. I sent her one message. "Your husband Greg is having an affair with my wife. I have proof. Meet me at the diner on 4th Street at noon. Please come alone." When she walked into the diner, my heart broke for her. She was visibly pregnant, glowing but tired. When I slid the PI's file across the table, the photos, the hotel receipts, the printed text messages, I watched a piece of her soul die. She cried quietly into a napkin for 20 minutes. I just sat there and let her process it, because I knew exactly how it felt.
When she finally looked up, her eyes were different. The sadness was gone. Like me, she had crossed the threshold into anger. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice shaking but firm. "We don't just divorce them," I said. "We expose them together. I have a plan, but I need you to be strong, and I need you to act perfectly normal for exactly 2 more weeks." Emily was a warrior. She agreed to everything. She went to her own lawyer, secured her half of Greg's assets, and prepared to move into her parents' house. Meanwhile, Chloe's 30th birthday was approaching. For months, she had been begging for a huge party. She wanted to rent a private room at an upscale steakhouse downtown, inviting her parents, her siblings, our mutual friends, and, of course, some work colleagues. I told her I would take care of everything. I paid for the room, I sent out the invitations, and I made sure Greg was on the guest list.
The night of the party arrived. The private dining room was gorgeous. Low lighting, expensive wine flowing, laughter echoing. There were about 30 people there. Chloe's parents, who loved me like a son, were sitting at the head of the table. Chloe was wearing a stunning red dress, holding court, looking like the perfect, happy wife. Greg was there, sitting 4 seats down, nursing a scotch, and occasionally shooting Chloe's secret, knowing glances. He thought he was so smooth. At 8:30 p.m., right before the main courses were served, I clinked my glass with a spoon. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to me, smiling, expecting a loving husband's tribute. "I want to thank you all for coming," I started, holding my glass up. "Chloe, you are turning 30. We've been together for 9 years, and tonight I wanted to give you something truly unforgettable, a reflection of the truth of our marriage." I reached under the table and pulled out a stack of thick manila envelopes. I handed the first one to Chloe's father, then to her mother, then to my best friend. "What is this, babe? A game?" Chloe asked, laughing nervously. Her eyes were darting around. "You could call it that," I said. "Open them." As people broke the seals and pulled out the contents, the temperature in the room plummeted. The envelopes contained the glossy 8x10 photos from the private investigator, highlighting Chloe and Greg at the motel. Behind the photos was a neatly bound 10-page transcript of their most graphic text messages. And right on top of Chloe's pile were her divorce papers, already signed by me. The silence was deafening. It was a thick, heavy silence, broken only by the sound of Chloe's mother gasping and dropping the papers onto her plate. Chloe looked at the photos. All the blood drained from her face. She looked like she had seen a ghost. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Greg stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "This is insane! This is fake!" he stammered, looking around wildly. Right on cue, the double doors of the private dining room swung open. It was Emily, Greg's 6-month pregnant wife. She walked into the room, calm and composed, holding a single envelope of her own. She walked straight up to Greg, who was now trembling. "It's not fake, Greg," Emily said, her voice echoing in the dead silent room. "My lawyer has already frozen our joint accounts. My stuff is moved out. Don't ever try to contact me again. Speak to my attorney." She turned to Chloe, who was now openly hyperventilating, tears streaming down her face, ruining her expensive makeup. Emily leaned down and whispered, loud enough for the table to hear, "You can have him, but you're paying for the child support." Emily turned and walked out, a queen. I looked at Chloe. "Your bags are already packed," I said evenly. "They are sitting on the porch of the house, which, by the way, I no longer own. You have until midnight to get them, before I donate them. Have a happy birthday, Chloe."
Chloe's father stood up, his face red with fury, not at me, but at her daughter. "You disgust me," he spat at her. I didn't stay to watch the rest of the carnage. I put a $100 bill on the table for the waiter, walked out the back door, and got into a waiting Uber.
The Uber didn't take me home. It took me to O'Hare International Airport, while Chloe was having a spectacular meltdown trying to explain herself to her horrified family and a furious, newly homeless Greg. I was boarding a first-class flight to Hawaii. It was the exact vacation she had been begging me to take her on for years. I drank champagne over the Pacific Ocean and slept for 12 hours straight. The fallout was nuclear. Because of the public humiliation and the undeniable proof, Chloe didn't even fight the divorce. She signed the papers quickly, walking away with absolutely nothing. Her firm fired her and Greg. Turns out, using company time and company credit cards to fund hotel rendezvous violates the corporate code of conduct. Who knew? Greg tried to crawl back to Emily, but she shut him down completely. She had a beautiful baby boy, and from what I hear, she is doing fantastic, taking Greg to the cleaners for child support. As for Chloe, she lost her friends. Her family barely speaks to her. She's currently living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment, working a miserable entry-level job because her reputation in the marketing industry was entirely nuked. I spent a year in therapy. I rebuilt my trust in myself, I traveled, I bought a boat, and eventually I met someone new. Someone who doesn't guard her phone, who communicates honestly, and who doesn't have a work husband. They say the best revenge is living well, and they are right. But publicly destroying the lives of the people who tried to destroy yours? That's a very, very close second.